In this shoulder mount tutorial, we will be covering entries and exits. Keep in mind that shoulder mounts are an intermediate level trick, but are great for beginners to practice to begin enhancing your strength and skill set to progress toward an intermediate level. To ensure proper form and safety while practicing these entries and exits, please be sure to view the previous shoulder mount tutorial. Also, if you are a beginner and don't quite have the strength to do these entries and exits yet, focus on the conditioning exercises from the prior video and progressively work up to practicing these as your strength grows. Let's start by going over 4 different entries that vary depending on the different leg variations that are used. This first entry is called a half tuck, so one of our legs will be straight and the other will be tucked. Once you're in your shoulder mount position, make note of which hand is on top. That corresponding leg is going to step backwards, so that way you can kick it forward to give you a hoist into the air. As your strength progresses, you won't need to use the kick up method, and you can just slowly raise yourself into the air using one straight leg and the other bent. Let's go ahead and view that one more time. Make sure that once you are in your shoulder mount position that you're consciously engaging your arms, your shoulders, and your core. Then we'll be stepping that outside leg back and kicking it up, extended while the opposite or inside knee bends to the chest, which will help you exalt yourself into the air. This next variation is called a tuck, so we will be bending both knees to the chest rather than just one. Again, if you need that extra momentum to get up, start with that outside foot back so you can kick it up into the air. And as your strength progresses, you can slowly lift up into your shoulder mount rather than kick up. This next one is called an attitude shoulder mount. That's when both knees bend. However, the outside leg is going to bend first and the inside leg will follow. I absolutely love this leg variation because it adds a little bit more depth and complexity to a simple tuck by offsetting those knees. This next variation is going to be pretty much an upgraded version of that half tuck and will be best on spin pull. Let's go ahead and break this down. For this half tuck variation, the first thing we'll do is make note of our lower arm. That leg is going to be our straight leg. It's going to step out to the side, and then our opposite leg that corresponds to our upper hand is going to bend, and we're going to tuck it in towards our chest while leaning in the direction it's pointing. As you are bringing that knee to the chest and turning towards the shoulder that's on the pole, you're going to heavily engage your arms, your shoulders, and your core to lift your lower body off the ground. Another thing to note here is when you first start this shape, the standing leg or our straight leg is behind our body. And as we continue rotating towards that shoulder, that leg slowly becomes the leader of our spin. And you'll note that right about here, that foot, that leg is in front of our entire spin, leading the spin. And that's what's going to slowly raise us up into our shoulder mount inversion. Lastly, let's focus on what that bent knee is doing. We are tucking it across our body as we twist it towards the opposite shoulder. And as our straight leg begins to elevate more, our hips start to square and that knee returns to its corresponding shoulder before straddling. Here's that half tuck variation one more time. We have officially made it to the last entry variation, which of course has got to be the hardest, where we keep both of our legs straight. Of course, the first thing to note here is really putting a focus on engaging your arms, your shoulders, and especially your core muscles. Once your legs reach about this point here, oftentimes we end up disengaging and coming down before getting into our full shoulder mount. So keep in mind, it's at this point where you really need to give it your all to get that final push into getting your hips in the air for a full shoulder mount. And now that we've wrapped up with entries, let's move on to the exits. We are going to focus on 2 different exits here. The first one is going to be an inverted crucifix exit. It will be most comfortable to practice this by starting on the ground in a straddle shoulder mount, and one leg will wrap around the back side of the pole while the other wraps around the front. You can also think to have the back of one of your ankles resting on the pole and the front of that opposite ankle to be resting on the pole. Both of the insides of your knees will clasp right above your top hand. Here's a side view of that leg positioning. Be sure to keep in mind when you are in the air, clasping your knees tightly and making sure they're even will alleviate some of the weight off of your shoulder. Let's note a couple more key factors for when we take this off the ground. Once your legs are evenly wrapped around the pole, you will apply a lot of pressure into those knees and your hands, which will relieve the weight from your shoulder. Once your shoulder is free from weight, you can push your hips forward, arch your back, and bring the pole from your shoulder to your chest. This transfer from your shoulder to your chest is very important because you can run the risk of hitting your collarbone, which is very uncomfortable. So to prevent that, it's really important to have all of your weight supported in your knees and your hands to release the pressure so you can slightly lift your collarbone off of the pole. Once your chest is on the pole, you can slowly start to extend your legs and slide your torso down the pole, still holding on tightly with your knees and your hands. Once you've gotten to this position, an extended position, you will now have more grip in your thighs as well as your knees, which will allow you to release your hands from the pole, ultimately getting you into the inverted crucifix. From here, you will lightly relax your legs just enough to where you begin to slide down. You will extend your arms to place them on the ground, and as your body continues to lower towards the ground, you'll walk those hands forward. Once you are at a comfortable distance, the leg that has the back of the ankle touching the pole will release, so that way the leg with the front of the ankle touching the pole remains in contact, which can lower you down even further. You'll tightly grip your thighs before releasing that leg or that foot to the ground. Once both of your feet are on the ground, you can bring your knees forward, planting them underneath of your torso. Here's a look at that exit while spinning. Now for the second and final exit variation, we will be using a knee hook to lower ourselves to the ground. We are going to be hooking the leg that corresponds with the shoulder that's on the pole. The transfer from your shoulder to the neck will be the same as in the inverted crucifix variation. Once your chest is on the pole, you'll be able to secure that top knee in very tightly, and then the inside of your thigh of that extended leg will also press into the pole, so that way you can travel your inside hand to the bottom of the pole, ultimately supporting your body and distributing that weight. Now that your upper body is supported on the pole, you can begin to loosen the grip on that top knee and the inside of that thigh, and that will lower your lower body down, so that way you can take your free hand and grab above your bent knee. At this point, you'll slowly begin to transfer the majority of your body weight back to that top knee and the top arm to lower the rest of your body down to the floor. Once you're in this position, you can either take that top knee and rotate it down towards the ground, or you can shoot that leg up towards the ceiling and unwrap it from the pole. Let's take a look at that full dismount one more time. And there you have it. We have officially gone over quite a few different entry and exit variations you can use when doing your shoulder mount. If you have any further questions or would like to book a private lesson, please get in contact with me using the following information.